I am Ibrahim Traoré, President of Burkina Faso. Today, I stand here amid the echoes rising from every corner of Africa. Justice, dignité, liberté. That chant is not merely the sound of a crowd. It is the soul of a continent awakening. This speech is not to commemorate the past, but to awaken the present. I speak on the occasion of the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women on the 25th of November, a day when humanity pauses to look into the mirror, to see how we have treated one half of the world. On behalf of the entire people of Burkina Faso, I send a message that transcends every border. The honor of a woman is the honor of a nation. This is not a routine political address. This is a declaration of war, a war against violence, injustice, and prejudice. A speech that, I believe, has never before been delivered in the history of West African Islamic nations. But to understand why we must declare this war, we must first look into the roots of injustice, where women continue to suffer in silence. In every family, in every nation, a woman is the lamp that lights the flame of life. Yet through the centuries, we the men have dimmed that light. When I was a young boy in Bobo Dioulasso, I watched my mother labor under the burning sun, working the dry fields to feed her children, while the men sat drinking tea and talking politics. And I asked myself, why does justice always stop halfway? I later understood this was not merely the story of Burkina Faso, but the story of Africa itself, even of the entire world. From the feudal dynasties to conservative Islamic societies, women have been confined within 4 silent walls, without a voice, without choice, without freedom. They were seen as childbearers, keepers of the kitchen, or worse possessions of men. How many times have we invoked tradition to justify fear? How many times have we invoked morality to excuse injustice? But today, we will invoke justice to restore their dignity. Because when one woman is humiliated, an entire nation is wounded. And when a woman is liberated, all humanity moves forward. If men are the backbone of a nation, then women are the heart of humanity. A body may stand upright because of its bones, but it can only live because of a beating heart. Since ancient times, Africa has survived thanks to the women who quietly upheld the foundations of life. They are the ones who carry water under the burning sun, who plant rice in the pouring rain, who teach children to read in mud-walled houses without desks or chairs. No victory achieved by men can endure without the hand of a mother, the heart of a wife, and the gaze of a daughter behind it. Let us remember Fatoumata Tambajang, the woman of Gambia, former vice president, who led the campaign to end dictatorship and rescued thousands of women from forced marriages. Let us remember Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, the first female president of Africa, who rebuilt Liberia after the Civil War and won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2011. What these women achieved was not because they were women, but because they were human beings of courage and conviction, something that many men, myself included, may spend a lifetime trying to understand. In today's world, the rise of women does not threaten men, it saves humanity. When a woman is educated, an entire generation is enlightened. When a woman has a job, a family escapes poverty. And when a woman is heard, a nation rediscovers its justice. I must say this clearly. Burkina Faso, and all of Africa, cannot progress if the past continues to chain the present. There is no true renewal when half of humanity, the women, are still forced into silence. I speak not only as the head of a nation, but as a son of this continent, one who longs to see Africa awaken. We will no longer remain silent before the suffering of our mothers, our sisters, and our daughters. For if women are the soul of life, then equality is the breath of freedom. I know there are truths that are not easy to speak, but a wound can never heal if we choose to close our eyes to it. Today I will speak plainly. 8 tragedies are tormenting millions of African women. 8 scars of humanity that we cannot and must not ignore. Please listen and do not turn away. The first tragedy: female genital mutilation. From the banks of the Nile to the deserts of the Sahel, there are girls as young as 9 years old who have been robbed of their laughter and of their childhood. This is not tradition. This is a crime. According to UNICEF and the World Health Organization, more than 230 million women and girls worldwide have undergone genital mutilation, of which Africa accounts for over 144 million. In Burkina Faso and neighboring regions, even though the law forbids it, there are still ceremonies held in the shadows where the cries of children are drowned out by the sound of ancient songs. Let us remember this. No ritual is sacred if it begins with blood and tears. The second tragedy: virginity testing before marriage. It is a humiliation disguised as morality. They demand a white sheet as proof, but that is not medicine. It is a violation of human dignity. Honor does not reside in a hymen. Honor resides in character. A woman's body is not evidence, and morality is not a commodity to be traded between families. The third tragedy: forced and child marriage. In too many places, girls of 12 years old are married off to men twice the age of their fathers. Because of poverty, dowries, or honor, childhood is sold cheaply. UNICEF estimates that about 650 million women and girls worldwide were married before the age of 18, and many millions of them are in Africa. I call them the stolen brides generation. And I say this clearly. No one has the right to decide a girl's heart or her future except the girl herself. The fourth tragedy: imposed dress codes. I do not condemn faith. I condemn coercion. When a woman wears a veil out of devotion, that is freedom. When she is forced to cover, that is imprisonment. No one has the right to define belief on behalf of another. Religion must lift the human spirit, not bind it. The fifth tragedy: restrictions on education and work. No nation can soar on half of its wings. When women are forbidden from attending school or from working, it is not religion, it is politics wearing the mask of morality. In Burkina Faso, we have reopened hundreds of classrooms for girls in the Sahel through the campaign. When a girl holds a pen, a nation is saved. Education is not a privilege reserved for men. It is our shared duty to the future. The sixth tragedy: blaming women to excuse the sins of men. For too long, society has placed the burden of men's failures on women's shoulders. Let me be clear. No Eve ever made Adam fall, only men who refuse to take responsibility. I quote from the Quran in Arabic and translate it into French and Moore. Both men and women are accountable before God for their own deeds. We must stop using faith as a shield to cover our weakness and cowardice. The seventh tragedy: barring women from politics and religious leadership. In the time of the Prophet Muhammad, there were female scholars, female merchants, and female warriors, and they were honored. If that was true then, why should there be barriers now? From this day forward, Burkina Faso commits to training female judges, female clerics, and female ministers. Justice cannot speak with only a man's voice. It needs the voice of women to be complete. And the eighth tragedy: domestic and wartime violence. War does not only take the lives of men, it takes away the peace of mothers and families. Thousands of women in Sudan, Congo, and Mali have been raped, abducted, and turned into spoils of war. No glory can ever be built upon the tears of mothers. Therefore, we will establish the National Commission Against Gender-Based Violence in cooperation with United Nations, women and African women's organizations, so that every cry for help is heard, every tear is wiped away, and no perpetrator hides behind the mask of tradition. Now, as these words echo across this square, I know the most important thing is not the applause, but the steps we take next. Every tear that falls today must become a seed for tomorrow's change. We have heard, we have cried, and we have understood. But understanding alone is not enough. The time has come to act. From this day forward, Burkina Faso will become a symbol of a new Africa, a continent where women are no longer pitied but trusted, protected, and honored. Because the freedom of a nation begins with the dignity of its women. And today, I declare 6 great initiatives, the first milestones on our journey to build an Africa of justice and equality. First, I declare the establishment of the Mother River Fund. That river will not flow with water, but with the willpower and determination of millions of African women. This fund will invest in cashew processing plants, cotton sterilization workshops, and community garment factories, with the goal of creating more than 50,000 stable jobs for women in rural areas. I want every woman in the Sahel region, when she wakes up in the morning, to know that she is not merely cheap labor, but a pillar of the new economy, a woman who holds the future of her nation in her hands. Because when one woman has a job, a family is saved. And when 1 million women have jobs, an entire nation rises. But economic power is not enough if the mind remains imprisoned. Therefore, our second initiative is to introduce gender education and equality studies into the national school curriculum starting in the year 2026. A young boy must learn that respecting women is not an act of courtesy, it is a duty of citizenship. And a young girl must be taught that she does not need permission to dream. I say it clearly. We will teach our sons to become protectors, not oppressors. And we will teach our daughters to become leaders, not followers. Education is the only key that unlocks the door to true freedom, and that freedom must begin in the classroom. However, education cannot thrive without justice. Therefore, as the third initiative, I am signing a decree to establish a special court for gender-based violence and child marriage. In that court, a victim's silence will no longer be a sentence. Every perpetrator, whether a husband, a father, or a man of power, will be held accountable before the law. Because the law is not only to punish, it exists to protect faith, dignity, and the worth of every human being. After justice comes life. That is why the fourth initiative is the launch of the program Healthy Mothers, Strong Future, in partnership with UNICEF and the World Health Organization, WHO. This program will upgrade 200 maternity and reproductive health centers across the country, ensuring that every woman in Burkina Faso can give birth in the light, not in the shadow of fear. No mother should ever have to choose between her own life and the life of her unborn child. A nation is only truly strong when its mothers are safe. When mothers are healthy, the future must be illuminated by knowledge. Thus, the fifth initiative is the creation of the Fatimata Traoré Scholarship, named after the mother who taught me to respect women and to believe in the power of knowledge. This scholarship will be awarded to underprivileged female students pursuing studies in science, technology, and engineering, STEM. Because a modern Africa cannot exist if our daughters are still pushed out of the classroom. The intelligence of women is the fuel of progress. If we wish to soar higher, we must let that intelligence take flight. But there can be no peace without protectors. Therefore, my sixth initiative is the creation of the Women in Security Training Camp, dedicated to courageous young women who wish to serve in the National Defense Forces. This model is inspired by the success of Niger in the year 2024, where women stood for the first time in the ranks defending their homeland. Indeed, when a woman bears arms to protect peace, no enemy can ever defeat that nation. A woman who has work, education, and respect that is the strongest foundation of peace for any nation. We do not need more aid. We do not need more promises. We only need to give them opportunity, and they will do the rest. Burkina Faso will no longer be known merely as a land of desert and wind, but as a place where women raise their heads proudly beneath the sunday. That is my solemn vow, Ibrahim Traoré.